do have my footage right here that I filmed with a drone, but I don't want to use all of this footage. I just want to use until right here when I stopped flying the drone. And now I'm going to trim this by dragging this right here and then clicking on my keyboard Ctrl+Shift+X. This is going to trim my workspace into exactly where I want to use the footage. Now what I'm going to do right now is pre-compose this footage by selecting the layer and clicking on my keyboard Ctrl+Shift+C, and then I'm going to move all attributes to the new composition and press OK. From the actual example that you saw, the spaceship was behind us, and then the drone flew and then it came right above where we were standing. In order for me to be able to achieve that in After Effects, I need to actually rotoscope myself out. This is not a necessity in every single video that you do. It depends on how you filmed the video. You don't really need to rotoscope. I do have an in-depth tutorial on how to rotoscope, but I'm going to show you how you can simply do that in After Effects 2024. What you should do right now is duplicate this clip by clicking on Ctrl+D on my keyboard. Select the roto brush tool, which you can find it up here. Select the roto brush tool and double click on your clip, right? What I'm going to do now is just paint over myself, and then I'll have this layout, right? I'm going just to make sure like this rotoscope really aligns with the subject here, so it will actually calculate the rest of the frames. Rotoscope 3.0, as you can see right here, we have Rotoscope Classic, we have 2.0 and 3.0, which is the latest update. This is more effective when it comes to rotoscope and it's much lighter. So now I have this my outline selected, though it's not that perfect. I'm going to just make sure the feather here is like 8, and then I'm going to shift the edges here. I'm going to make it like -1, and then I'm going to increase reduce chatter, then select use motion blur. Since I have my frames calculated, now I'm going ahead and press space on my keyboard, and now the roto brush will actually calculate and try to rotoscope everything out. It has finished rotoscoping and it has done a very good job, as you can see, right? Freeze this rotoscope, and then what it's going to do is retain all the rotoscoping information, and it won't have to like process it every time, which will actually speed up other processes when we are editing. Now that we are done freezing, we can go ahead and get back to our main composition right here. If I activate the rotoscope, you can see right here it's pretty clean, but I only want to use this up to about almost the 10th second here. And to be able to edit in a more smooth way, it's best for me to just export this outside and import it as a regular video. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and this is the rotoscope video that I exported with the alpha channel, which I'm going to be using later. Now I'm going to just go ahead, deactivate this and activate my main video, right? What we need is to have some tracking information of our footage right here. Go ahead and click here on the tracker, and if you don't see this panel, go to Windows and check it right here. You'll find if it has the check mark here, tracker, you will see it right here. Go in the beginning of your video and select track camera. Track camera will do, it will actually analyze the footage and take the information of the camera and then apply it as tracking data into After Effects. I'm going to just wait for it to load right here, solve the camera and give me the tracking points. These are the tracking points right here, and you can see if I scrub through my timeline here, I have tracking data all the way throughout the video here, and I want to place my 3D objects right above where I'm standing, right? So I'm going to choose the tracking points that just below right here. I'm going to right click on this and create solid and camera. Now I have my solid here, and I'm going to check if it stays on the ground and moves as how the camera moves. And you can see it has solved pretty well, and it's actually usable for this video, right? The next thing to do here is import my 3D objects. Now I do have a 3D object right from Sketchfab, right, which is free object. You can actually go ahead and sign up, and then after signing up you can actually download free 3D objects from Sketchfab. I have my 3D objects here imported. It's GLB file, and we have a couple more supported 3D objects formats that you can import into After Effects. I'm going to take my 3D object right here and I'm going to import it into the timeline. Once you do that, this window will pop up. It has different settings here like make, comp size, and affect position, and then I'm going to check on that and click OK. Okay, now we do have this spaceship right here. If I open up the transform options and try to rotate this, you can see it's an actual 3D object. It's not actually a 2D object, which is pretty cool. Right now it doesn't really look realistic, but we are going to work on that, and it's going to like look great in a minute. I'm going to just undo this, and then on my camera views here I'm going to make 2 camera views. Now I did leave this solid on purpose because I know this solid is right in front of where I'm standing, and that is exactly above this solid is where I want to place the 3D object, right? The first thing I'm going to do is rotate this. After rotating this like right here, then I'm going to take it further behind, like right here, and then I'm going to like scale this up to make it look really large, and then I'm going to like zoom out and push this back like right here, and then I'm going to scrub through and see how it looks here on the. As you can see on my active camera, right, it's huge. Scale it a bit more to make it look a little more, you know, huge.
Big, huge.
And then I'm going to push this a bit more further back, right here. And then just play around with the scale and the position here until I get exactly what I'm looking for. So this actually looks a little bit convincing to me. So I'm going to put back one view and make this the active camera, and then fit my preview, right? And then as you can see right now, it doesn't look really good because it looks like it's front of me. But if I take this roto video and place it above and activate it, you can see now it's starting to make sense. It looks like it's above us and it's covering the whole space from back to front. And if you play this, you can see if you scrap this back, you know, it goes like this. And you can see it looks really nice. This doesn't look realistic yet because of the lighting of the 3D objects. One of the most important things you need to understand about making 3D objects look realistic is lighting. Now, the best thing about the 3D lighting in After Effects is actually now we are able to import HDR assets, and that they are going to be used as light sources. So I do have an HDR asset here from Polyhavens, which is free, and it's actually similar to my scenery. And what I'm going to do is just import this on my timeline right below right here, and then right click here on my timeline, go to new, and then create a new light source. I'm going to make this environment as it is and click OK. Now the next thing I'm going to do is open up the light properties, right? And on the source here, I'm going to select my evening field, which is my HDR. And off the bat, you can see now the 3D object has changed. And now what I'm going to do is just a couple adjustments to make it align with the light source. As you can see, the light source that was used in our footage was the sun, and it was a sunset, and the sun was behind us. And that's exactly what I want to do. So if you open up the light source, right? and you go to transform, you can see you have the X rotation and the Y rotation. And if you play with this, you can see it changes how the light is casted on our 3D object. So I'm going to just change the X and Y, just make it kind of match with where my lighting was. And then I'm going to open up the light source here and reduce the intensity here a bit so it can match with the lighting here. And you can see it starts to look realistic here. Now, if we play this back, this is how it looks. Now, I'm going to scale up this solid that we used here in the beginning, and I'm going to make it accept shadow. So if there is any shadow information available from our HDR and our 3D object, it can be casted down to this environment, right? So create two views, and then since we are on the top view here, I'm going to deactivate the space comp here, and then I'm going to see where, and I'm going to take this solid and scale it up. So open up transform options, scale up the solid, like really scale it up. Make sure it covers as much space as possible, like this. And then I'm going to get back on my active camera here, and then I'm going to material options here and open up on cast shadows. I'm going to make it off, and then accept shadows, I'm going to make it only, so it can only accept shadows but it won't be visible. So if there is any shadow information, they will be casted here on this solid. Activate my space comp here. Just like any other layer in After Effects, you can actually animate this 3D object in After Effects. If you open up the transform options here, you have the transform properties of any 3D layer that, like we used to import it before. You have the scale, position, you have the rotation, you have the opacity and the orientation properties. So I will just go ahead, because as you can see here, our heads were lit up by the sun and it doesn't really look realistic, and being that we have the spaceship behind us. So about right here, when I adjusted the drone, you know, the lighting disappear, and here is where I want to end the animation of the spaceship coming down. So I'm going to put a stopwatch here on position, and I'm going to go in the beginning here, in the beginning of the timeline. I will move the Z properties here, like right here. Select my two keyframes, press F9 on my keyboard so they can become easy ease. Open up the graph properties here, and then click on this icon right here and select speed graph. Edit speed graph, and now we have the speed graph here. Now click on this handle in the beginning, drag it so the animation will, you know, start up in a speedy way, and then it will smoothly slow down as it ends, like this. And now if we play this back,
Big mistake.
not really giving me what I want, so I will go ahead and adjust this keyframe like. And now if we play this back, we have something like this. To make a 3D object blend into your scene, you actually need a little bit more things to do. And when it comes to me here, I needed to add a little more things into the atmosphere, like dust, particles, and other stuff. And that's when I used a couple of assets here. I'll just create a folder here, name it assets. And then I'm going to import here a couple of assets here. Now, when I take these assets, they will actually just bring more atmosphere to our composition, right? So like right here we have a lighting source here. I'm going to make this add, and then open up the opacity and then tone this down like 35, because I just wanted to bring like subtle lighting to it. I don't want to be like extreme. And then I'm going to like play through this and see. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in some dust particles here. You can see we have some dust particles right here. And then I'm going to make the blending mode here to screen, and you can see we have a bunch of dust particles here. And I want some of these dust particles to be behind me and some of them to be in front of me, but I don't want the dust particles to go all the way throughout the video. I want like the dust particles to end like right here. I will open up the properties, right? Put a stopwatch here, and then play back a little bit, and then I put another stopwatch here. Go back to the end keyframe and set it to 0. And now as the camera moves, the dust particles will also disappear gradually. I'm going to duplicate these dust particles, right? My rotoscope video that we did in the beginning. Then I'm going to click S on my keyboard to bring the scale properties, scale the size of these dust particles, just to bring a little more variety here. Then I'm going to take the dust particles in front, and I'm going to also mask them out. Open the mask properties here, feather this out, and I'm actually going the scale up dust particles. I'm actually going to place them in front of my rotor, because that makes more sense when it comes, because things that are in front of the camera will tend to appear bigger, right? Now play this and we have something like this. I also wanted to make this alien-like, so I actually added in a planet here, Saturn, to make it look a little bit out of this world. This is pretty simple, because what I did was actually take this image here of a PNG image of the planet, right? And then place it right above my original clip here. So everything else that I added was behind this clip, right? Okay, so on your keyboard, scale it like right here, and then I place it above like right here. Masked the bottom to align with the perspective here, so it can blend in with my horizon right here. Then open mask properties, feather this out, play with the expansion, and then I decrease the opacity here to make it fade out like right there. And now you can see, because this is way back, it doesn't really have to be even 3D. So just like that, it works simple. Just import it, scale it back, mask it out to fit the horizon, and then tone down the opacity and place it on the back. And you can even add in motion blur if you want, if you have depth in your camera shoot. But this drone shot didn't really have depth to it, so it really didn't need all that. Now you can go ahead and color grade this if you want. Additional things that I made this look even more realistic is that I added in a wiggle expression, but also heat waves distortion. Because this has already been a very huge edit here on my system, I will go ahead and export this and then work on the heat distortions and the wiggle effects on a brand new project. Go ahead and save this, export this out, and then import my space comp here. Create a composition. The first thing I'm going to do is add heat waves to this video. Go ahead and right click on your timeline here, go to new and create a new solid. Make it black, click OK, and then search in for fractal noise. Put fractal noise right here, and then select the noise, the fractal type to dynamic twist. Then what I'm going to do is hold Alt on my keyboard, click the stopwatch of evolution here so it can open up expression, type in time, star and 2000. Depending on the length of your video, you can type in 1500 depending on the speed. The number you increase here on this expression will actually increase the speed of the wiggle of the evolution to your fractal noise. Now, after doing that, I'm going to reduce a bit of this contrast here to make it like, you know, something like 45. And then I don't want this heat distortion to go all the way throughout the video. About right here, I want the heat distortion to end. Open the opacity properties here, add in a keyframe, go a bit forward like right here, and then set the opacity to 0. This will make actually the heat wave to disappear. Now what I'm going to do right now is pre-compose this by clicking Ctrl+Shift+C, move all attributes to the new composition, and then search in for a displacement map effect. Take the displacement map effect and apply it to our space, right? Deactivate the black solid which has the fractal noise in it. Select our original clip, right? And then on the displacement map layer, select our black solid, and you can see right ahead it has already done the heat wave distortion to our video. And right where the heat wave disappears, it will actually end, right? It will disappear like right now, you can't even see it. Now I'm going to select both of these, Ctrl+Shift+C, pre-compose this, and then after I get my pre-compose here, open position properties by clicking P on your keyboard, hold Alt on the keyboard, click on the stopwatch and type in the expression wiggle, open brackets. I'm going to type in 1,5 and close brackets. And now if we play this back, we'll have a subtle wiggle expression to our comp. Now you can see we have like these gaps, distortions that are happening. So I'm going to go ahead and just scale this up a bit. The thing about this wiggle expression is you can actually control the amount of wiggle your footage actually has, because if you change these numbers here, which represent how much the wiggle affects your video, if I change this 1 to maybe 5 and play this, you can see now it moves in a very different way. And if I change this like 5 to like 10, and you can see now the wiggle effect really becomes something different. And now if we play this back, you can see the video is like this. Now I don't want this wiggle to be like this extreme, so what I'm going to do is click on this wiggle effect, right? Set it to like 2, and this I'm going to set it to like 7, and then I'm going to leave it like this. And now we have something like this, and right above right here I want the wiggle expression to actually end. So I'm going to split this by clicking on Ctrl+Shift+D, split it up, then open the position properties and deactivate this layer, and now it will be like something like this. And that's about it in this tutorial. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe, like this video, share it with your friends, and always remember to go out there and create something awesome.